Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, Jay, here to talk about another issue, another burning topic that a lot of people are talking about. And it's actually three different stories put together, but it all kind of relates to the same thing. The first is about this Keke Palmer situation. Keke Palmer and her uh, boyfriend got into a spat a while ago, like a week or so ago, over Twitter because of this outfit that she wore at this party and the way that she was dancing with Usher that he perceived as disrespect. He perceived it as a sign of disrespect, and he took to Twitter, and it got to the point where they even stopped following. He even stopped. They even stopped following each other because it got to be so toxic, and he even deleted his Twitter account. This is Darius Dalton, her kid's father. And he basically said, the gist of what he basically said was, a mother shouldn't be dressing like that. A mother shouldn't be acting like that. Hey, Alicia, what's going on? She shouldn't be presenting herself like that. And everyone took their own sides. Everyone had their own opinions about it. Guys had their opinions. Women had their opinions. Most of the women came out and said, you know what? She has the prerogative to dress how she wants. She has the right to dress how she wants. And just because that's her kid's father, he never put a ring on it. He's not her actual husband. He doesn't have the right to say what she wears and what she don't wear. But I noticed though too a lot of and before I get to the second case of Jonah Hill, let me comment on what I noticed though about a lot of the inconsistencies when it came to the women. And I'm glad that Lisa is on here to provide a female perspective on this because I noticed this when I listened to a lot of the women commentators on this, like specifically the YouTuber Amy Loho. Uh, she said she wouldn't allow any man to tell her what to do. At first, she said that Darius Dalton doesn't have the right to tell Keke Palmer what to do because that's not her husband. He didn't put a ring on it. She's only his baby mama. She's only his girlfriend or whatever. And then the same woman, Amy Loho, in the same video, like the next sentence, said she wouldn't allow any man, even if it was her husband, to tell her what to do or what to wear. So my question is, for those that are saying, well, he ain't the husband, and you got to be the husband to tell the girl what to do, what's the sense of him being the husband if he doesn't get the the right to tell her what to do or what to wear? You know what I'm saying? So you contradicted yourself. You're saying on the one hand, oh, he ain't the husband. He can't tell her what to do. But then if he were to become the husband, he wouldn't get the rights and privileges of a husband to begin with. So what's the whole point of being a husband then? You know what I mean? You don't if you don't reserve the right to at least set some ground rules, and that's a perfect segue into the next case that I'm about to talk about, that I feel like is an extreme in the other direction, and that's comedian Jonah Hill setting tons of ground rules, like a laundry list of ground rules for his girlfriend. She can't go out with friends that she used to hang out with. She can't have other guy friends. She can't basically do anything. She is basically trapped in within her home or within the confines of her home. And this is her husband. But one of the ground rules that he set was that she can't go out surfing, and she's a professional surfer. So, being as though this is how she makes her living, how the hell can he set the rules that she cannot no longer make a living? And what, she can't have female friends either? I think he went a little overboard. But this speaks to, again, the insecurities that we talk about are always on this channel, the insecurities that certain men have when their woman is more successful than them in a particular arena. Now, I'm not saying with the Jonah Hill case that the woman was more successful than Jonah Hill. Obviously, Jonah Hill, uh, oh no, they wasn't married either. Okay, I stand corrected. This is why I have Lisa as my co-host. Jonah Hill wasn't married to the girl either. But as far as in the case of Jonah Hill, she's not more successful than him, financially. In Keke Palmer's case, this guy was basically he's nobody in the entertainment industry, and he was obviously, I think, by more so threatened, in my opinion. It wasn't really about how she dressed, but the fact that she was dancing with Usher. A lot of people talk about it, and we've talked about on this channel how men feel when they earn less than their woman, when they have less social status or less social capital, because they know that by nature women are hypergamous, and they want to most women want to marry a man with higher status in some sort of way than them. They don't want to marry a man with lower status. And when they do settle down with somebody with lower status, men might feel their masculinity a bit threatened. So Darius Dalton might feel himself threatened because here he's married to this really rich and famous and well known woman, and here she is dancing with somebody who's even more rich and more well famous, more well known and famous than even she is. Usher. I mean, Usher is basically dancing with your girl. An R&B singer, somebody that has a massive sex appeal, is dancing with your girl. And I can imagine how, from a man's perspective, that would seem threatening. You know, you know what I mean? I can definitely imagine that how that would feed into his insecurities. Now with Jonah Hill, Jonah Hill is much older. Jonah Hill is a comedian. Comedians are not known for being the most attractive or the most aesthetically pleasing men. In fact, Jonah Hill, he's lost a lot of weight, but he was previously a very overweight and very awkward looking comedian. I mean, that was the whole point of his whole persona, his whole comedy act. Just like he like a Chris Farley type or Kevin James type. So somebody like him being married to somebody who is reasonably more physically attractive than him. Now, there are people on here degrading her physical looks or whatever, but she was out there. She was an athlete. She was well put together, more well put together physically than he. You know what I mean? I could see how he'd be threatened by her. And one of the ground rules related to her, um, one of the ground rules related to her past. You know what I mean? Where he was talking about, the past relationships that she's had. So here, in this situation, money doesn't make the man because the man is still threatened and still feels a type of way, feels insecure, basically about his relationship with this woman. And people are saying it's very abusive, and it kind of is very abusive because here he's telling her that he can't even make a living. You know what I mean? He wants her to be completely submissive and completely, uh, locked in and cloistered in, like a Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth type situation. Those people that are wrestling fans, they would understand that reference. Where Macho Man would leave his wife Miss Elizabeth in the house for days and days with just TV dinners, and he wouldn't allow her to interact with anyone. And you would think, well, why is he doing this? I mean, he's the Macho Man. He is more successful and more well known and more renowned than Liz, but he felt some type of way. He felt like they were not equally yoked in the physical sense, and he probably felt like she was always going to go out there and she was going to be for the streets, right? And that's probably how Jonah Hill is feeling. But still, for Jonah Hill to say that this woman who's a surfer, and obviously, again, we know with the Jonah Hill thing, it's more of a physical. It's different than the Darius Dalton thing. You can see the difference. Darius Dalton, it's his fame, his money. With Jonah Hill, it's obvious that it's his physical appearance, that he's fat and he's not an attractive guy because he's insecure about her going to on these surfing trips. Being a surfer, right? He knows that she's going to be a surfer and she's going to interact with guys that are more athletic, more in shape, more muscles, right? Better physically put together than Jonah Hill. That's why he's afraid of losing her, right? Um, And Lisa's saying, yeah, he knew it. That's what I'm saying. He knew the job before he got with her. Why did he even get with her? Same with Keke Palmer, Darius Stellan situation. He knew that Keke Palmer was a celebrity. He knew that Keke Palmer was, that she knows a lot of famous, influential guys like Usher. Why would he? Uh, why would he think that he either you're going to be? I mean, Keke Palmer has dated billionaires. There's this clip on YouTube with Steve Harvey talking about Steve Harvey telling Keke Palmer that uh, she shouldn't date any of these billionaires anymore because of how they treated her. So this woman has dated men that are of very high financial status, billionaires and billionaires. Obviously, she's a very attractive woman. She's one of the most attractive women in Hollywood. Uh, and the other case is Halle Bailey's boyfriend. Again, another boyfriend. Guys that are not married to these women. They feel like they have the right to set these parameters and not being married to her. Now, Halle Bailey is having her moment right now. Little Mermaid just came out. It was a huge success, a huge smash. She's the face of it. She's having her moment now. And all of a sudden, now that she's having her moment, this guy wants to hop out of the woodwork and he also wants to act jealous and insecure. So we're seeing here again another case of the man feeling a type of way, feeling some type of way because the woman is somehow better than he is. Now, should this is brings to me to a fourth case that Lisa didn't know about and didn't point out to me, but it's kind of something everyone here is talking about. And this is the extreme in the other opposite direction. And that's Adam 22. Adam 22's case is he's not insecure about his relationship. He actually let his wife, Lana the Plug, have sex with another man, Jason Love. He's a podcaster with no jumper. And that to me is the other direction. There's one thing, okay, you're too secure, you're too jealous, you're too controlling, like Jonah Hill, but or Keke Palmer's man. But when you are in the other direction and you're not jealous enough, that to me is an indication, and you're letting your wife have sex with another man on camera, even though yes, your wife was a former porn star, right? That to me is the other direction in the sense that you don't really care about your wife. I think there has to be some sort, and Lana the Plug is actually the wife of No Jumpers, Adam 22 from No Jumper. They actually are married and have a kid together. So, and people are reacting. People are saying, well, how can he do something like that? Does he really care about his wife? He's gonna go out like a complete sucker, what I mean? Letting his wife on camera for the sake of our OnlyFans account have sex with a porn star, Jason Love. You know what I mean? So all these talks, all these conversations regarding the male and female dynamics. When is it appropriate to be jealous? When is it appropriate to feel secure? And when is it appropriate to not be jealous? And Andrew Tate came out in his interview with Tucker Carlson, and he mentioned the Adam 22 thing too. And he said, well, he and his brother both said, well, what's the point of being married if you're not going to feel jealous in a sense? But when you compare all these cases, the difference with the Adam 22 case is that he had the right to say, listen, you can't have sex with another man on camera, even though you're a former porn star, because I'm your husband and you have to respect my rules. Again, what's the point of being married if you're not going to set those kind of boundaries? But when is it appropriate? All these cases bring up the same thing. When is it appropriate to set boundaries? And when is it too far to set boundaries? You know what I mean? And what should those boundaries be? And when should you be able to reserve the right to set those boundaries? You know what I mean? When should you, even the Will Smith case from back 2 years ago with the entanglement, should Will Smith have asserted himself and set better boundaries for Jada Pinkett Smith. Maybe they wouldn't be in the position that they're in. Now, each one of these cases is a little bit different. With Keke Palmer, I get what her husband is saying because it's a lot of the same things that people are saying about the Adam 22 line of the plug case. One of the things that people are saying with the Adam 22 line of the plug case, now it's not the same thing because Keke Palmer wasn't out with Usher on stage or anything like that, but people are saying the same thing kind of like Darius. Okay, yeah, not her husband, you're right. At least let's keep pointing that out. But it's like, what will the kids say? Is that appropriate for a mother to be doing? Is that something a mother should be doing? And another thing, another instance that people were pointing out that is hypocrisy is they never pointed out for the men. They never pointed out Chance the Rapper, you know, with having a woman twerking on him that me and Lisa talked about. Was it wrong for Chance the Rapper to have a woman twerking on him? Sure. But the point is, but when it comes to a woman and a mother of children, I do agree with Darius Dalton on this. A mother of children should be a little bit more conscious of how she conducts herself because you have a child, and eventually your child is going to grow up and your child is going to see you making this adult content. It's going to be something that he or she is going to be teased about in school. I'm sure even now, at its early stages, at its incipient stages, OnlyFans, there are fights that are breaking out on schoolyards every day when one kid says, "Oh yeah, well that's why your mama's on OnlyFans," right? And another kid gets offended, and then kids start fight. That's happening. I know that's happening. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, uh, women have their own agency. They have their own rights to say what they're going to do, and they set their own parameters. And a man can only set ground rules to a certain extent. You know what I mean? If he feels like the woman is too much of a thought and she's too out there, then maybe he shouldn't be with her. Maybe that's not the woman for him. And as far as the Jonah Hill, uh, Kiki's boyfriend admitted that he held her to a perfect standard not too long after they went public with their relationship. But okay, but at least, but what does a perfect standard even mean? I mean, yes, maybe he held her to a perfect standard because she wasn't out there. She wasn't doing that shit. She wasn't a Meg the Stallion or anything like that. She wasn't, you know, publicly doing any. She was like she kept a low profile when it came to uh, her publicity. But even with this, yeah, she showed her ass a little, but to me, her situation wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Her situation, I've seen situations where wives have disrespected men in a worser way than what she had done. To me, she wasn't that bad. But the Jonah Hill shit, now there are two different cases because the Jonah Hill shit was way more extreme. Jonah Hill, I mean, it seemed like if this woman just farted in another guy's direction, he was ready to snap. The Halle Bailey situation, I mean, he got to expect that's going to happen. But I will say with the Keke Palmer thing though, if her husband continue or her man or whatever boyfriend continues to feel this way, he shouldn't marry her because he's going to be put in a situation like Bobby Brown was put in, where everywhere Bobby Brown went, he felt inferior to Whitney Houston. He felt this big as far as Whitney Houston was concerned because she had the more money and she was the ground rules in the relationship. She was driving the vehicle. And that contributed, as we know, to a lot of Bobby Brown's insecurities. And when you have a situation like that, it's best to avoid it. You know what I mean? If you feel like you're not the type of man that could handle uh, a financial situation like that, and you feel inferior or a notch below your woman, then maybe you shouldn't marry that particular woman. You know, maybe you getting jealous in a boyfriend type situation is better in a sense because now you know what you like and what you don't like, what you will accept and what you won't accept, what floats your boat and what doesn't float your boat. Same with Jonah Hill. But see, Jonah Hill to me was like he just liked her because she was a surfer and she was, hotter than he probably ever had. So like, and then he felt he could be controlling. To me, that's too controlling. There are two different extremes. Keke Palmer's man, kind of controlling, kind of insecure, a lot of insecurities. But it seems like uh, if he were to go through with it and marry her, it could turn into a worse situation. Lisa's saying it wasn't that bad. She just had a baby, and I guess she was feeling herself because women go through emotional stuff and body image stuff after they give birth, like postpartum depression. Absolutely. You know what I mean? And we saw this. Uh, we saw, we saw this. The Jonah Hill shit. You're not getting no argument from me there. The Jonah Hill shit is just. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. You know what I mean? That's up there with no disrespect what you see from a lot of men from other countries, African and Middle Eastern countries. You know what I mean? Abusive, really heavily abusive type shit, and heavily controlling type shit. You know what I mean? And it just makes people laugh because it's like you would expect that from a guy like him. You know what I mean? That he would be insecure because if he wasn't famous, would a girl like that even look in his direction? Probably not. So of course he's gonna feel some type of way about it because he probably not used to getting athletic and good looking women. You know what I mean? He's definitely not used to it. So when he has it, he wants to lock her down and make sure she don't go nowhere. But listen, even with those rules, even with that laundry list of ground rules, bro, if she wants to cheat, she's still gonna cheat. You know what I mean? She's gonna find a way around it. So I mean, uh, I was gonna say, I was gonna say, that the Kiki, the other, and she says DDG is just mad because he's a failed rapper YouTube guy. But I was gonna say this whole Kiki Palmer thing with her feeling herself again and trying to feel sexy is kind of like, and this is another case of that people were up in arms about a while ago, and we didn't talk about this on the channel, but I remember coming across this case is Aisha Curry. Remember when Aisha Curry was on that talk show? Lisa, she took, and the guy that was like a stripper or whatever came out, a dancer, and he came out, and Aisha Curry took her ring off. And before that, she had made a comment like she misses, guys hitting her up in her inbox and looking, giving her compliments and making her look, make her seem like she's sexy. She missed that male attention, and that kind of happens to women, that settle down. They kind of miss, getting compliments from men because most men that are respectful and and normal guys that are not looking to sleep with other men's wives, once they see that you have a ring on it, and once they see that you're a mother and you're settled down, um, they don't holler at you no more. They don't give you compliments no more. They see as another man's not property, but like as another man's territory. You know what I mean? And they don't want to go up and challenge that man, especially if that man is Steph Curry, one of the most successful basketball players, rich and famous, and and everything. They don't want. They don't. They, most men cannot compete with Steph Curry's um, social and financial situation, so they're not gonna try to challenge his relationship with Aisha because how can they? You know what I mean? He has tons of bread. He's successful. You know what I mean? They can't compete with that. He's pretty secure in that. So she doesn't get the attention that she desired. And that's kind of like I feel like with Keke, it's like she wants to feel sexy again. She wants to feel desired again. And just wanting to feel sexy and wanting to feel desired is not necessarily an indication, in my opinion, that you want another guy. You know what I'm saying? Like you might just want, compliments, from somebody different, other than just your husband who you feel like, or your long term boyfriend or your kid's father or whatever, that you feel like he has to give you compliments because y'all are together for whatever reason. You know what I mean? That's like saying that goes into parameters, rules. That's like saying, is it appropriate for the, and we see this a lot with the phenomenon of work husbands, work wives. Is it appropriate for men or women to have a work husband, a work wife, somebody that they're calling a work wife or a work husband that they are friends with? That maybe they flirt a little bit, maybe they exchange flirtatious comments or flirtatious jokes together, maybe a couple of sexy jokes here and there, and they're married or they're in a long term relationship. Is that appropriate, or is that considered cheating? Is that a violation of their commitment to one another? Some would say that it is. Some would say that it isn't because they don't cross a line. Some would say that Kiki Palmer herself was flirting with Usher and that she crossed a line and Usher was flirting with her. But one of the things to remember is that Usher does this performance with all types of women. And he had to know, Darius Dalton had to know that Usher was going to do this performance. I mean, he had to know that this is something Usher does. He invites women on stage, he dances with them. Chili has done this at the TLC concerts with men. Janet Jackson has done this. So when this happens, when something like this happens, people might say, "Oh, I'll be cool with it." I wouldn't care if my significant other was invited on stage to dance with or to be danced by, in the case of a female performer, to be serenaded or to be danced with in a sexy way. It was this case with Chris Brown that happened a while ago. Some said they wouldn't mind it, but when it actually happened with a guy that he did it for his girlfriend's birthday, it ended up that the relationship broke up. You know what I'm saying? Because people say, "Oh, I wouldn't mind it," right? Until it actually happens. And then when it actually happens, it causes a spark of insecurity in you. This video is specifically about masculinity, but even with women, it would cause an insecurity in them. Because even though they know that if it was a famous person, right, if it was Janet Jackson, or if it was Chili dancing with their husband, even though they know that Janet Jackson or Chili is not going to go home with their husband, they are still going to feel a type of way because what it would make the person think is, damn, maybe I'm not enough for him or her. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't satisfy them enough. Maybe because why, you know, is my attention, is what I do for them not enough for them? You know what I mean? Are they not satisfied in any sort of way, emotionally, physically, anything? So this kind of stuff this kind of flirtation stuff, and I've learned this from personal experience myself, it opens the door for something that could lead to the end of a relationship. This is why people are saying with the thing of, of Keke Palmer that it is so dangerous. It's not necessarily, it can be looked at from a perspective of a man being too, oh, he wants to control what she wears, or he wants to control what she do. Maybe he don't. Maybe that's not his intention. Maybe his intention is that he doesn't want to open up the door to the possibility of Keke Palmer flirting with other guys. Because maybe Usher is not into her. Most likely he isn't into her, right? Because he's known her for years, and if he wanted to get with her, he probably would have gotten with her already. But the point is that she desires attention from other men that is not him, and that could lead to her seeking out that attention from other men that are, is not him in a more okay. Lisa's saying because he's insecure. Okay, let me. Okay, let's turn it around. What if Darius Dalton, Lisa, from your perspective as a woman, what if Darius Dalton was up there twerking with another woman? See, that's the kind of hypocrisy that I'm seeing online when it comes to some of these women. I'm not saying you, Release, but I'm just saying the women that are saying, well, he's just insecure. You just got to get over it. But if the shoe was on the other foot, what would women say? You know, they wouldn't even consider the fact that he's not married to her. They wouldn't even consider that. They would sit there and say, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. That's the mother of his child. How could he go up there and how could he dance with another? How could he dance with Megan the Stallion? How could he dance with uh, Glorilla? How could he dance with Ice Spice? Let's say it was hypothetically it was them, right? People would say that's the mother of his kids. How could he do that? You know what I'm saying? Right in front of her. How could he do? I know that that's what they would say. You know what I'm saying? Because the stuff like that has happened before. You know what I'm saying? I can't really remember a specific case where things like that have happened. Chance the Rapper is one example, but there have been other examples where uh, people have said, yeah, they said, well, that's not his wife, but that's the mother of his kids. How could he do something like that? You know, even just talking to a girl on Instagram or whatever, hitting up an Instagram model. You know what I mean? And it's not like that's just the mother of his kids. You know what I'm saying? It's the mother of his kids, but at the same time, they're in a relationship, right? At least it's not like she's not like Drake's baby's mother, right? Where Drake and his baby mother, they're not together. You know what I'm saying? Drake does what he does, and the baby mother, Sophia, you know, she does what she does. I mean, they're not together, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm saying that um, when if a man that was in a uh, okay, now Lisa's saying, well, Twitter found pics of him with his in the internet with his shirt off, and people are saying that he can't get mad about what she did. Okay, yeah, but she had that outfit and he had his shirt off, right? And they're both wrong. See, that's the point. That's what I'm saying. That's where social media gets people in trouble when it comes to relationships because you're out there and you're flirting with other people. When you appear half naked or in provocative clothing with your shirt off or with your ass hanging out, you are essentially inviting others to your body. Now, is it right for them for others to take that invitation? No, that's considered sexual harassment. But at the same time, people interpret that as being available. People don't interpret that as being exclusive. And that's what it essentially is when you're flirting and you're in a long term relationship like that. You're saying, I am available. I am available to date. I'm available to talk to. I'm available to possibly be intimate with. And you're not maintaining exclusivity, which is the point of a relationship. Again, if you're not going to maintain, this is why I think open marriages are one of the open marriages and open relationships are one of the dumbest concepts ever to come to humanity. Because if you're not going to maintain exclusivity with people, with your husband or with your wife, and your body is not exclusively for, or okay, informal marriages, baby mother, boyfriend, whatever. Because a lot of these women that are complaining about the Keke Palmer thing, some of them don't even want to get married. Like Lisa, it bring up an excellent point. She said, "Oh, he brought the drama to social media, the world, by tweeting what he wrote instead of talking to her in person, which he shouldn't have done." That's what I'm talking about. To me, I feel like it wasn't even about what she was wearing. She could have been wearing one of them Saudi Arabian outfits, right? She could have been dressed as freaking Mother Teresa, but it wouldn't have mattered because he was going to find something. And say she was dressed like that and she still went up there and talked to us, dance with us or whatever, he would have still brought it to social media because he is hungry for clout. He is feeling some type of way that he is not as famous as she is, and he's feeling insecure about it. So it's not even about that. But I wanted to use that to segue into this conversation about when is when does flirting go is flirting too far? Is even dressing too far? And should a person, should a significant other, married or not married, because some people, some of these women that are commenting on the Keke Palmer thing a couple of months ago, years ago, they said they didn't even want marriage. You know what I mean? So uh, they don't value marriage. That marriage is important to some and not important to others. Like I said, Amy Loho, that lady contradicted herself. She said, he's not even her husband. How can you tell her what to do? And then she goes, says, well, not even my husband can tell me what to do. So, okay, nobody can tell you what to do. So, what's the point of making the distinction between a boyfriend and a husband then if nobody can tell you what to do? I thought, you know, if I'm gonna have the same rights as a boyfriend, what sense of me upgrading to a husband if I don't get anything different? You know what I mean? It's like if I don't get at least input into not what you wear, but how you present yourself to the world. You know what I mean? Are you presenting yourself as available to the world? Because if I'm not, then you shouldn't either. You know what I mean? That's only fair. You know what I mean? It's a difference between what Keke Palmer's man is saying and what Jonah Hill is saying. Keke Palmer's guy is not saying, okay, you can't be an actress anymore. You know what I mean? You can't be Keke Palmer anymore. You have to stay locked in with a laundry list of rules. He's not talking that bullshit. If he's talking that bullshit, then he's even overboard for a husband. But like Lisa's saying, should he have brought the attention to the world of Twitter? Because when you bring it to the world of Twitter, okay, now it looks like you're clout chasing. Now it looks like you don't even care about the situation. All you wanted to do was get attention from the situation. All you wanted to do was get views from the situation, get mentions, get hashtags, get likes from it. I mean, you didn't even care about what really went down. Lisa says she thinks that the whole Kiki sis thing is saying that you're a mom and had an issue with saying that and that it's mom shaming. Well, Okay, yeah, mom shaming, but come on, is it not true that these things exist in social media forever, right? And that people can look this stuff up of their own mother, their mother doing things that are unbecoming of a mom. You know what I mean? Same thing with a father. Should a father appear to be flirting with multiple women online? Should a father be making out with random women online? And if somebody said, you really shouldn't be doing that, man, you have a daughter, you shouldn't be presenting yourself as a gigolo. Is that bad shaming or is that just common sense? You know what I'm saying? You want to put your best representation forward when it comes to your children. You do have to, when you become a parent, act in a certain way that is more respectable and above what you were acting before you became a parent. Because now you have little eyes, little ears, little thoughts, little perceptions of your son or daughter that is going to be looking at you and going to be judging everything you do. Because remember, a child's first hero in this world is not another celebrity. It's not somebody on Twitter, but it's somebody that a child's first hero is their mother, is their father. It's supposed to be a representation of what to do in a relationship, how to conduct oneself in a relationship. A man is supposed to be that representation of how to be a man for his son and how to treat a woman for his daughter. A woman is supposed to be the epitome of womanhood for her daughter and the epitome of a wife for her son and the role model of the kind of woman that he wants to marry. You know what I'm saying? So people that use the word shaming, oh you're slut shaming me, you're fat shaming me, you're whatever shaming me, are trying to get away from the consequences of acting the way that they act. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that they shouldn't. Lisa saying, but if that's the case, Nicki Minaj and Cardi B and every rapper, male or female, shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They shouldn't. And the point is that when their child is around, like when you see Cardi B with Culture, or you see her with Wave, or you see Nicki Minaj with her son, you always see them presenting in a different sort of way. Yeah, the stuff is out there in the yeah, but remember that Twitter video, at least where Culture stepped into the room and Culture she was playing WAP and then she turned the music off after Culture heard it. You know what I'm saying? Because even they know instinctively as adults that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, but they do it for the clout and they do it for the attention. But see, nobody calls them out on it. Their significant other doesn't care. Offset doesn't care. The guy that's with Nicki Minaj doesn't care. But the point is, even if they did, people would still say, "Oh, shut up! They're just doing whatever they're doing." Right? People wouldn't take the approach that they should act in a respectable manner. But it's funny because around their kids, they do. You know what I'm saying? Every celebrity that does this kind of stuff, I guarantee you, around their children, they don't. I guarantee you, Snoop Dogg, as much as he loved to smoke weed and loved to do the things that he was doing back in the day, I guarantee you, once he became a father, he didn't do that kind of stuff around his child. Exactly. But Keke Palmer's thing, they're entertainers, they just said, but Keke Palmer's thing was not part of her entertainment. You know what I mean? It was not part of her act. She's not a thought rapper. She's not doing this. So she's not doing it for the bag. She's doing it because she wants to do it. And I think that's the thing that her man took offense to. But at the same time, a lot of men they want to be able to do this kind of ratchet behavior and chase women around and be the kind of irresponsible men that they're being, at the same time calling women out for their irresponsibility. We see this all the time. You know, as much as you have to walk the walk and talk the talk. If you're somebody like uh, uh, Fresh and Fit or an Andrew Tate or somebody like that that is always calling women out for being 304s and for being thoughts and stuff. And then you turn right back around and you're making your millions and your billions off of cam girls and TikTok girls dancing around naked, then you're a hypocrite and nobody should listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to police what women do, but you don't want to act accordingly and do the things that men are supposed to do. Both sexes are supposed to hold up and be respectable men and respectable women. One side can't be respectable and the other side be unrespectable and it'll be a hoe. Because, and that's what we see from a lot of these guys that are outraged about this Keke Palmer and Jonah Hill situation. From the guy's point of view, guys are sitting there condemning Keke Palmer, condemning Jonah Hill's girlfriend, and these same guys that are condemning Jonah Hill's girlfriend and Keke Palmer are guys like Fresh and Fit, guys that talk about that you can't be a real man until you sleep with like 50 girls. What kind of thing, what kind of manliness, what kind of masculinity are they promoting? You know, good character among men are they promoting if they're saying that you have to sleep with 50 girls? It's complete hypocrisy. They're the same kind of 304s and the same kind of hoes that they call women out for being. Lisa saying a few weeks ago, Monica the singer did a video with the game, and one of her sons saw the clip of it and called her out saying, "What is this?" And Monica was in the bathtub with the game. Exactly. This is my point. Kids grow up and kids see this kind of stuff, and they're going to question their parents on it. They're going to question their parents on it. They're going to question their father of why he was. If your father's a podcaster and he's out there promoting the idea that men should sleep with 50 women in order to be perceived as a man, if their mother is singing WAP, if and they're doing any of this reprehensible behavior, their kids are going to see it and their kids are going to call them out of it. This is the kids. Kids are truthful. Kids are not like adults say fake shit. Adults will tell you what you want to hear. They'll ear tickle you, and they'll be fake with you, and they'll act like hide behind all this politically correct language. But the truth is that whether you're a man or a woman, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk. You're going to sit there and condemn all men for being dogs and condemn all men for being too obsessed with sex and saying that men are trash and all they do is use women, then you can't be out there flaunting your body. You can't be out there singing these thottish songs because then it makes you look no better than the men you're criticizing. Same with the men. You can't sit out there and like I said, be an Andrew Tate or be a Fresh and Fit and sit there and say that uh, women should be covered up. Women, everything is haram, right? To these guys, right? Haram, haram. And but at the same time, say that you should sleep with 50 women. You know what I mean? Come on, that's haram too. That's reprehensible too. That's degenerate too. You know what I'm saying? Monica told her son, it's like a movie. Mommy's at work. Yeah, that kind of works. Again, we go to something like professional wrestling. Professional wrestling, especially in the 90s, wrestlers would do things that, they would point at their dicks and say, suck it, They would the female wrestlers would have bra and panties matches, stripping, doing all kinds of degenerate things, or the Jerry Springer show. People like that, they have to have a lot of explaining to do with kids, with their children. You know what I'm saying? Because they did things that were out of the ordinary. They're not practicing what they're preaching. They're saying, "Do as I do as I say, not as I do." You know what I'm saying? And the best way to be a parent is to lead by example. Don't be the type of parent that your kid could say. I mean, Monica's thing, at least it doesn't sound like it's anything that bad. You know what I mean? It's her in a tub with the game. It's not, she wasn't doing a porno with the game or anything like that. You know, but the point is, don't do anything that years later your son or daughter is going to look back at you and say, "Mommy, Daddy, why did you do this? Why did you say this?" You know what I'm saying? Lead by example. And as corny as people like Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens are, I mean, people say, "Oh, well, they're so corny, they're so conservative." But one thing about them, besides their racist remarks, as far as like sexuality, you can't point to them, those two, or even Matt Walsh or anybody at the Daily Wire, you can't point to them besides their reprehensible political opinions. There's nothing you could point to them as far as sexuality that is anything hypocritical. You can't say, "Oh, well, Candace at one time was saying that, she's saying that she's against WAP, right? The song, and at one time she was twerking. At one time uh, she was being a hoe. At one time she was, dressing provocatively. She was never doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you could dig back into her archives all you want since she's been online. Back in the day when she was Red Pill Black Girl on YouTube, and she was never doing any of that. You know what I'm saying? Ben Shapiro was never doing any of that. He comes out against sexuality, condemns both men and women. He's condemned uh, the entire corn industry, right? All of corn, not just men viewing corn or women viewing corn or men participating in corn and and uh, women. He's been damn it all. He's wrote a whole entire book on it, and you can't point to him and say, "Well, he's ever been accused of anything sexually reprehensible." Now, a person like Trump, you can point to somebody like that, and they were accused of reprehensible things. So when they talk about respectability and when they talk about what you should or shouldn't do, we can point to their hypocrisy because we know that they've done hypocritical things. I would never get on a soapbox on here, guys, and say that anybody should or shouldn't do anything sexual, preach against being a sexual deviant because I'm not a perfect person. Not to say that they're perfect people either, but at the same time, you can't find me anything publicly that some of these two in particular have done anything hypocritical. You know what I mean? So when you talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. You cannot, on the one sense, preach respectability, and on the one sense, preach sexual conservatism, and on the other hand, be promoting degeneracy. You can't do it. You know what I mean? It's not going to work for you because people are going to say, "Well, what about that time you blah 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 blah?" You know what I'm saying? Like, you're sitting there calling the other gender hoes, and you're sitting there saying what the other gender should do, but what are you, or even your own gender, if you're calling out your own gender, like somebody like uh, just per, just pearly things, always out here preaching about what women should do or what they shouldn't do or men should do and shouldn't do. Come to find out, she's preaching against hookup culture, but there's a video out there that went viral of her saying that she wishes that she could be a part of hookup culture. That she wishes that men would holler at her on Twitter, I mean, Tinder, and other dating apps, but they don't. So you know what I mean. So she's only mad at hookup culture because she herself cannot be a part of hookup culture because men don't find her attractive, right? You know what I mean? So uh, um, that's hypocrisy. Lisa saying, do you think rappers and R&B singers have it have it tough when having to keep their kids keep their same reputation afterwards? Yeah, especially if they're the type of rapper and the type of R&B singer, at least that sells sexuality. Because when you preach a certain message, you have to seem to be authentic in that message. And preachers always get caught out for this. Preachers always get caught. Preachers, of course, they preach religion, they preach respectability, but if sometimes they don't always live up to that standard, they get caught out for their hypocrisy. And we're not perfect people. Nobody is perfect. People slip up, people make mistakes, and a lot of times their words don't match their actions. But the point is to be conscious and cognizant of what the things you do and the messages that you put out there. In the 90s, rappers used to always get away with the excuse, oh, I'm not a role model. I'm not a role model. Meanwhile, especially when it came to the boys, because back then, like we talked about in the last video, male rappers were more predominant than female rappers in those days, especially with the negative messages. Meanwhile, the rappers said they weren't role models, but a lot of these boys looked up to these rappers like they was role models because these boys didn't have fathers in the home, so they looked to guys like Dr. Dre, guys like Snoop, guys like gangster rappers as male role models and how to treat women. And what were these rappers saying? They were promoting sexual promiscuity. They were promoting it ain't no fun until the homies can't have none. We don't love these hoes, all that shit. And it was like, are you promoting being good men? Are you promoting being honorable men? Are you promoting being good fathers? No. And you're saying you're taking the cop out. I'm not a role model. Yeah, you're not a role model, but you're put in the position of a role model. Don't you understand the nature of the community in which you come from that suffers from fatherlessness? You know what I mean? That suffers from broken families. People in the inner cities, suffer from this phenomenon. And a lot of times people will seek out celebrities as their role models because this is what's put in front of their faces. You can't on the one breath say, "Oh, I'm not responsible for what anybody does." That used to always be the cop out of rappers, even when it came to violence or other entertainers. Not I'm not picking on rappers because rock and roll stars like Marilyn Manson said the same thing in regards to school shootings. They said, "Oh well, I'm not responsible for how anybody takes it, but what are the messages that you're putting out there? You're not responsible for how they take it, but you're responsible for the messages put out there." And political commentators do this too, but you know, YouTube influencers are the new rappers. You know, YouTube influence, YouTube and TikTok and social media. That's why I'm bringing up a lot of social media people, social media personalities, because I feel like rappers and shit people have seen through them, but the new rappers and the new people are social media influence. And people think just like they used to think with the rappers. Okay, yeah, at one time we looked up to movie stars, but we realized movie stars were all fake. They were all playing a role. So we looked up to rappers, but rappers and R&B singers because they said they were keeping it real. And then they were exposed as fakes. So now we look up to YouTube influencers. We look up to the Just Pearly Things or the Andrew Tates or people like that, right? And we think, oh well, they're keeping it real. They're telling it like it is. Meanwhile, they're just as hypocritical as the next person. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, guys and girls, you always if you take human beings as your role models and as your representations and as your idols, they will always fail you. because people are not perfect. You know what I mean? People do make mistakes. People do have hypocritical opinions. But the best thing for a person to do if they're looking to influence someone, if they're looking to uh, point someone in the right direction, be they a rapper or be they an entertainer or a YouTube influencer or a politician or anybody, and your mother and father, is to always try to do your best to be consistent with your message. Don't be preaching morality on the one hand and practicing immorality on the other. And be cognizant that eyes are watching you. Eyes are always watching you. People are always judging you. Now, as far as masculinity and insecurities and things like that, I think we've reached a level in our society, not just with celebrities, but in general, where women do earn more than men. For the first time ever in American history during the Obama administration, women out earn men like 3 to 1 because society is more predicated on technology now, and jobs are a lot easier. And manual labor is no longer as prioritized as it once was. Deindustrialization in the United States, factory jobs are going overseas because of um, things like uh, NAFTA and TPP, the Pan Pacific deal, going overseas, outsourcing to Asia and to Latin America. So a lot of these factory jobs that men, especially in formerly industrialized cities like Detroit, that was the center of the auto industry. The auto industry in Detroit collapsed. The big three, GM, Chrysler, and Ford, that a lot of men were employed in, that enabled a lot of men to raise out of poverty and raise into the middle class and be able to provide for their families are no more. So we've gotten into more jobs that are um, require less physical demand, and women have taken up those jobs. And now women tend to, in the average American family, either earn the same, well, not really the same because there's still the wage gap, and that's a whole nother issue. But they actually earn more than some men, and that bothers a lot of men. Me as a man, do I have issues with that? I can't lie, Lisa, and say that I don't have issues with it. It kind of is a new adjustment to me, and I would feel like I wouldn't have the respect of my significant other if I either earn, especially if I didn't earn any money. You know what I'm saying? If I didn't earn any money, maybe if I earned less money, I wouldn't feel that way. You know what I mean? It wouldn't threaten my masculinity. But if I earned no money, then yes, it would threaten my masculinity. And look, I guarantee you that as much as these women promote feminism and they promote female empowerment, I guarantee you that when you get into an argument with this woman and you either earn less money than her or you earn no money at all, she will shame you for it. As much as these women don't want to be shamed for how they dress, like Keke Palmer or anything, they don't want to be shamed for anything or how they conduct themselves. I guarantee you that if you are in a situation where you earn less money than the average your partner, or you earn no, especially if you earn no money at all, I guarantee when you get into a fight with her, what is she gonna sit there and say? She's gonna say, "Oh, you a bum. You don't earn no. You know, I'm making more money than you. I'm bringing in the bread. I am the breadwinner of this situation. All all you are is just a bum, and you're living off me." I guarantee you, she will that. She will appeal to those older school perceptions of masculinity and femininity. She will. You know what I'm saying? As much as she wants to appear enlightened and appear as a feminist and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm a boss babe. I'm earning all this kind of money." When she gets into an argument with you, she will shame you, and she will sit there and say that you earn less money, that you are worthless. She will shame you in that way. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that every woman will. Not every single woman. I don't know every single woman. I can't say every single woman will, but I guarantee you that this will happen in 99% of cases. In 99% of cases. Lisa says she wouldn't. Okay, Lisa is one of the rare exceptions that uh, she wouldn't do this. But I guarantee you, 99% of cases, this will happen. You know what I mean? Because the whole thing for women that they desire, people often say, well, what do women really want? Right? Men are trying to figure this out. Men are having conversations with women, conversations mostly with themselves, and they're trying to figure out what do women really want. And the thing that women really want in all types of ways is security. They really want security. Financial security, financial stability, physical safety. They want to feel safe, essentially. And when they have a man that earns less, they feel like, well, what do I need a man for? You know what I'm saying? What do I really need a man for if I'm earning all this bread and I'm earning more bread and I'm supporting uh, him? You know what I mean? Especially again, if he's earning less and he's trying to climb the social ladder and the workplace ladder to be more successful, she will probably support him. You know what I mean? Most women will support him and have his back, unless she's a gold digger or whatever, right? But if he's doing nothing and he has zero ambition and he just is settled in his situation and he's not trying to be the best he can be, then she won't feel safe and she won't feel secure. She won't feel like that is a man that can provide for her and her offspring. And if she is a smart female, she won't even have children with him because she knows that he's not a man that is going to take care of her financially and hold her down financially. Now, if she's dumb, she will have a man with him and complain about it later. Then, in that case, then she's a hypocrite. She's just like the people we were talking about before. Don't preach something and then do something else. You knew he was a bum when you got with him and you had a kid with him. Now you're complaining that he's a bum. You know what I'm saying? A guy that is secure in his masculinity, a guy that is financially he's taking care of his family. At the same time, he's a high earner, and he doesn't have a problem with Sierra's success. And that's Sierra's husband, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the type of guy that you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a good provider. At the same time, he's not insecure or jealous or controlling. You know what I mean? But for a man to not be a provider at all, for a man to leech off a woman and to try to use a woman financially, is totally fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So would it rub me the wrong way? Yes, it would, because I would feel that I am being leached her, that I am leeching off of her. You know what I mean? And that would make me feel, in a way, insecure within uh, my own masculinity. Not because she's earning, but because I'm not earning anything. So that's the answer to your question. I feel like a man still has to be the primary provider in a relationship. Not that a woman has to stay home and work and don't work and just be pregnant and having kids. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that a man has to have financial stability in order to bring something fruitful to the relationship. And that is something that parents should teach girls. Don't settle for less than what you're worth. Don't settle for a guy that's a bum. Don't settle for a guy that he might not be where he wants to be, but he knows where he's going financial, knows where he's going career wise. He knows that he has to be more ambitious. He has to push the envelope if he wants to have that security around the security perimeter around, right, exactly, around his family. And Russell Wilson's a perfect example of that. Without telling her that she can't do what she's doing. Not some Jonah Hill shit. You know, not telling her that she can't order, she can't provide a living for herself, and she can't contribute to the family. But still, Russell is still the primary provider in that situation. I mean, as famous as Sierra is, and as much as a success that Sierra is, Russell Wilson is still Russell Wilson. He still has more money than Sierra. He still is worth more than Sierra. You know what I'm saying? And she's happy with that because he's holding it down as a man. You know what I'm saying? And that to me makes him better than these guys because he's not threatened by Sierra's success, but at the same time, he's confident in his own masculinity and knows what he has to do as a man, that he has to lead. See, a lot of these guys online in the manosphere and stuff, they want women to submit. They always talk about, oh, and they bring up that Bible verse that a woman should be submissive to her husband. But okay, you want her to be submissive as a wife, but what is she submitting to? Is she submitting to you being a leader? Is she submitting to you being um, effective as a husband, as a leader, as a primary contributor in the relationship? Or is she submitting to you just being a bum and being and providing for you financially, and not and you not doing anything? You know what I mean? If you why should she submit to you when you don't have the status of a leader, when you haven't earned that right to be submitted to? You know what I mean? You want submission, but you don't want anything. You don't want to have to do anything for her to submit. You know, for her to play that role. You wanted to play the perfect female submissive role, but you're not willing to play the male role and be the leader and hold the keys to the kingdom and hold the fort down. You want basically you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want submissive providers. How can you have a submissive provider? How can she be a primary provider and taking care of you financially and then you submit to her? You don't deserve to be submitted to because you're not the one paying the bills. So if you're not the one paying the bills, then you don't deserve to be submitted to, or have an opinion. You know what I mean? When you could step up and you could be the man and wear the pants and be deserving of wearing those said pants, then you could have a say in it. Until you can't, when you can no longer do that, then you cannot have a say in it, my friend. You know what I mean? When you could be the man, then you could demand that she could be the woman. At the same token, ladies, if your man is holding it down and if he's doing the right thing and if he's taking care of you financially, not taking care of you, but doing his part as a man and leading by example as a man and as a father, and you don't take his word into consideration, not doing everything he says, not being a slave, not saying that, right? Just like with the men, not saying that you should be abusive or you should be controlling like Jonah Hill. Don't take it like that. Not saying that the woman should be a slave, but at the same time, if he's doing all the right things that he's supposed to be doing and taking care of his part of the relationship, then you have to, as a woman, comply and do your part as a woman and support him in his endeavors, just like he supported you. That's what being 50-50 is all about. 50-50 is not we're on the same level, because we're never going to be on the same level. People have different skills. People have different opinions. People have different temperaments. People are always different. Equality exists, but equity doesn't exist in the real world. Parity exists. In other words, we can do the same thing, and one of us will be earning more money, and one of us will be earning less. But we're all doing our part. We're all contributing, as I said, right? But at the same time, if he's doing all that and he's doing what he's supposed to do, and he's holding up his end of the bargain, and you're not, then you're the bad one. And people and women take that in the wrong sort of way. Women take that as, oh, he's not. He wants to have total control of me. He wants me to walk around looking like a Saudi Arabian woman, all covered up and everything. No, but he wants what he wants is your respect. He wants to know that you as a woman respect him as a man and won't undermine his authority, especially in front of his kids. You know, which a lot of women do, especially if he's not the primary breadwinner, or if he's not one of the, he doesn't have equality with her in terms of what he earns, or if he doesn't have a job at all. Well, what will end up happening is when they end up having kids, he'll try to discipline his kids as a man and as a father, and then she won't respect him because he doesn't, he's not financially stable, and she'll feel like whatever he says doesn't count, and she'll be the one to primarily tell the kids what to do. Or she'll go out there with her girls and she'll be out there partying and she'll be out there twerking on slave castles in Ghana enough for her because she's not wifey material. She's not the type to be a wife. She's not looking for a partner to be compliant in and to be complimentary of. She's looking for somebody that she could control, that she could undermine and use her financial stability in order to do. Okay, yeah, twerking was a bad example, but that was the first example that popped into my mind, at least because we were talking about that earlier. But I'm saying twerking in public. If a married woman is twerking in public, then that means, to me, in my opinion, that she doesn't respect her family, she doesn't respect her husband, and she doesn't respect herself. A married woman. We're talking about a woman with a ring on her finger that is actually officially married to a man. I feel like that's not something that a woman should be, a married woman should participate in. You know what I'm saying? These are certain gender roles. And I know people are going to say automatically that's when we get into the LGBT conversation. It's a whole other conversation about gender roles and the role reversals and the undermining of gender roles in our society. I feel like the LGBT relationships, that's something different. That's a completely different dynamic. Uh, that obviously doesn't have the masculine and the feminine roles and dynamics. And I completely respect LGBT. I'm not homophobic at all. I'm completely for LGBT relationships. The non-binary stuff and gender non-conformity kind of confuses me because I'm old school. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Yeah, because that was an example that popped into my head. I'm still trying to wrap my head around a lot of this gender non-binary conformity stuff. That's a completely different conversation. But here we're talking about just masculinity and femininity as people have understood it for centuries. You know, as people have understood it. You know, in heteronormative cisgendered relationships. You know, not that other relationships are not valid because they are. You know what I'm saying? But the dynamics are different. We're talking about regular dynamics here. You know what I mean? Not regular, but male, female, cisgendered, cis men and cis women. You know, heterosexual. People. you know, gender dynamics, because people always want to throw that in. Well, what about uh, yeah, yeah, toxic masculinity. Obviously, the word toxic masculinity, again, another buzzword that came out of the SJW, social justice warrior, leftist crazy mania that I criticize. Even though I'm on the left, I voted for Joe Biden, I voted for Barack Obama. I believe in a lot of leftist democratic political policies, but a lot of the social policies and words like toxic masculinity get thrown around to just shame men for being men. They say men enjoying things like physical competition, like boxing or wrestling or MMA, is an example of toxic masculinity, and it's not. They say men enjoying flirting, unmarried men enjoying flirting with women is an example of toxic masculinity, and it's not. They say men enjoying anything that's perceived as traditionally masculine as being toxic masculinity, and it's not. But this is an example, I believe, especially Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill's shit is an example of toxic masculinity. And there is toxic masculinity. It's not all just bullshit. But the problem is they call everything toxic masculinity. So if everything is toxic masculinity, then it turns out when everything is that, then the word ceases to have any meaning because you labeled everything with that. You know what I'm saying? Just like if you label everything as racism, then when you have real racism, then it doesn't mean anything because you called everything racism. You called everything a microaggression. You called everything sexist. You called everything homophobic. So when real homophobic stuff or real sexist stuff or real toxic masculinity stuff pops up, then you people just dismiss it as, oh, that's just more bullshit. You know what I mean? Because they call everything that, right? But with this, especially with Jonah Hill, this is an example of toxic masculinity, and there's toxic femininity. We called out toxic femininity in the last video. The things that I talked about, the things that I went against, the types of music that India Ari was talking about that we went against, is an example of toxic femininity. What Keke Palmer did is not an example of toxic femininity. It could be if Keke Palmer was doing it to. I think Aisha Curry's thing is an example of toxic femininity, if you ask me. You know what I mean? Because here she is, somebody that's married, seeking the attention of other men when you're already married. You know, people say, "Oh, well, that's just natural." But are all things natural, good to embrace, or are some things that are natural good to suppress? It is natural to want to burp in public when you have to in front of people. But is it polite? Is it the right thing to do, or do you suppress that because you are concerned with how people will perceive your said behavior? So some people would say that what Kiki Palmer did is toxic. Some people would say what the husband did is toxic. I think what the husband did is toxic because you took to Twitter and you made your shit public. If you wanted to talk to your woman about what she's doing, her behavior, and how she should corrective course, you put it in private. You talk to her in private. You don't chase clout to try to get other people in your bullshit because you know that Twitter loves the tea, social media loves the tea, and they love to feed into it. And you'll get a million posts like that. You'll get videos like this that are over an hour long talking about this because this is something that feeds into the lives of regular people, the plebeians, if you will. So that's the video. In the end, you should be controlling in a sense, but not too controlling like Jonah Hill. You should care. You shouldn't want your woman to be out there doing some Adam 22 shit and having sex with other men, for the sake of profit for an OnlyFans website. But again, you shouldn't be so insecure in your woman's sexuality like Jonah Hill and try to make a laundry list of rules, because guess what? The more rules you make, the more rules she's going to break. If you don't think that, you don't know anything about human nature. She's just going to say, oh, fuck it, and throw the rule book out the window and do what she wants to do anyway. Anyway, you guys, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next video is coming out. Love you guys. Steve, I thank you, Lisa, for contributing. Good night. Peace.